Now, folks, Chief Meteorologist Nick Lilia here with a look at your tropical update for June 4th of 2020, brought to you by the good folks at Pine Belt Gutters and Remodeling. Wide view of what's happening in the tropics right now. Really not much doing down into the Caribbean. Fair amount of thunderstorm activity from the Yucatan Peninsula all up to the Carolinas. The stuff down in the Yucatan, of course, related to tropical depression. Cristobal at this point, now 165 miles off to the south of Campeche, Mexico. Wind at 35 miles an hour, go to 45. The pressure up to 99. And it is still moving to the southeast 3 miles an hour, which is still reasonably impressive that it continued to move off to the southeast. At this point, the thought is that it would either be stationary yet again, be moving back off to the north. So the further off to the south this thing goes, the more difficult it's going to be for it to re-emerge into the Gulf of Mexico with any quickness, and thus is going to limit its opportunity to reorganize and re-strengthen itself as it moves through the next couple of days and toward our direction. So, National Hurricane Center response to this still has it as a tropical storm as it moves across the Gulf of Mexico. So once it gets back out into the open waters, the idea is it will re-strengthen a bit. However, there may be a lid to just strengthened it becomes. And also, it's going to end up getting a little more wobbly with its projected path. You can see that the storm cone has now been shifted a little further back off to the west, and it no longer includes a majority of the Pine Belt, but instead just kind of a sliver of some of our western counties. And as a reminder, the forecast cone here is for where the center of the storm is going to be, not where the impacts from the storm are going to be. So as of now, I got off the horn with the National Weather Service a little bit earlier, who'd been working in cahoots with the old National Hurricane Center, and they were mentioning that currently a tropical storm force wind is projected out 200 miles from the center. So, go ahead and throw a ruler on here and let's say from the furthest point off to the west, how far is 200 miles then to the east? And notice how far we're getting, almost to distance. So even if this takes the furthest easterly course, we're still talking about winds to 200 miles all the way out to Denver. Okay, well, what about just for us here in the Pine Belt? Okay, we'll just slide this thing over. So how far off to the west can it get before the furthest east of our counties still has to deal with the projected tropical storm force wind? And this thing can make landfall as far off to the west as we're almost to where be out Alexandria, give or take, Louisiana. You can see how this thing just kind of slides on to the north or about Monroe. So if you go on a north-south line with Monroe, we're still talking about tropical storm force wind. What about tropical storm force wind to the I-59 corridor? Well, I mean, you're talking about almost Lake Charles. Even as this thing makes landfall at Lake Charles, you're still talking about an area of tropical storm force wind across at least some of our western counties. So kind of keep that in mind as you're looking at this cone over the next couple of days. Even if it slides well off west, there's still a chance that the woods has to deal with at least tropical storm force wind. What are the spaghetti pots saying about Cristobal? Well, let's slide in here a little bit closer. By Sunday morning at about 9 a.m., this thing's going to be just off the coast and into the Gulf of Mexico. But notice how wobbly some of these lines are, and that lines up with what the forecast is saying, keeping it a little wobbly too. But this thing should hook a sort of left as it moves ashore or before shore. That leaves our area, South Mississippi, in the front right quadrant, which unfortunately means we're going to get a fair amount of rain and we're going to have the possibility for some spin-up tornadoes. Now these tend to be the brief ones, the weak ones, EF0s, maybe EF1, and they tend to be very brief. I mean, we're talking about on the ground for 5, maybe 10 minutes, but they move fast. They go somewhere between about 45, 55, even sometimes up to 65 miles an hour, so they're moving at highway speed. So they're moving pretty quick, but nevertheless, that's where we're going to be as we head through Sunday and Monday in South Mississippi, with the anticipated landfall coming sometime Sunday night. Now, you want to back out of Sunday night, you can say, okay, 24 and 48 hours, so sometime Friday night is going to be 48 hours before landfall. And generally, I think they start issuing warnings about 36 hours, right? Isn't that the, I believe that's the rule. 36 hours before landfall, they start issuing, if they need to issue warnings. So don't be surprised if you start to get into some warning territory as we head through, whether it be Friday afternoon, if we're looking at a Sunday night landfall. So once this thing moves ashore, it slides on by. So there's a quick look at your tropical update, again brought to you by the good folks at Pine Belt Gutters. We'll have more information, again further updates as we move through the next couple of days online, and we'll have another tropical update for you coming up tomorrow, just about now.